All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis est. Exposing the Gynocracy, the diary of an enlightened man, written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Exposing the Gynocracy, a field guide for men who still notice reality. The Gynocratic Guillotine, how feminism hollowed out Western civilization and wore its institutions as a skin suit. I watch the modern world and I do not see a society. I see a patient zero in a hospice, coughing up blood while the nurses compliment its complexion. You feel it in your marrow, that grinding static of capitalist realism, a term Mark Fisher wielded like a scalpel yet failed to identify the true carcinoma infecting the host. He thought the malaise was neoliberal economics. He missed the gynocentric parasite draining the vitality from the West. We inhabit a reality where the corporate boardroom, 91% human resources female, prioritizing equity over engineering, has merged with the welfare office to create a vast, soggy machine designed to extract resources from competent men and funnel them to the protected female class. This isn't capitalism, it is a welfare program for the feminine imperative disguised as a marketplace. And your ambition is the fuel they burn to keep the lights on in the abortion clinics and the diversity training seminars. Consider the psychological warfare waged against your very soul, specifically the APA's 218 declaration that traditional masculinity, the very stoicism and drive that built the aqueducts, the legal codes, and the steel towers is a pathology. This is a linguistic and medical fraud. If the pathos suffering is treated with logos reason, then the man who masters his emotions to act decisively is the sanest among us. Yet the Gynocracy diagnoses this excellence as toxicity, because a man who cannot be manipulated by guilt is a threat to the consensus. You have been drugged in school for having the energy of a hunter, and shamed in therapy for having the logic of a judge. They pathologize your virtue to weaponize your guilt, hoping you never realize that your anger is not a disease, but a diagnostic tool signaling that your boundaries have been violated by a culture that hates your competence. Look closely at the intimate tyranny of the shit test, that evolutionary interrogation chamber where women screen for fitness by inducing stress. It is sold as curiosity, but it is actually a Kafka trap of the highest order. When she asks, "Have you ever lied? Or do you get bored easily?" She is not seeking truth. She is forcing you to audition for a role you already occupy, demanding you confess your sins to a prosecutor who holds no moral jurisdiction. If you admit to a past lie, you are dishonest. If you deny it, you are lying now. It is the inquisitorial logic of the witch trials applied to dating. A feminine frame game designed to strip mine your dignity while she conceals her own body count behind a wall of semantic technicalities and sex-positive liberation. This liberation, this sex-positive feminism, preached by Hooks and her ilk, is the final nail in the civilizational coffin. A doctrine that severs the sexual act from the sacred and reduces the transcendental eros to a friction-based transaction. The syllogism of their self-destruction is simple. If sex positivity serves the interests of women, Premise 1, and sex-positive culture correlates with skyrocketing female antidepressant use and the degradation of pair bonding neurochemistry. Premise 2, then the ideology is a lie that refutes itself. They have turned the bedroom into a marketplace, the woman into a commodity, and the man into a disposable consumer, all while claiming it is empowerment. It is time to reject this gynocentric necrophilia, reclaim the natural law of the master craftsman, and build a fortress of logic that no lie can breach. The necropolis of dreams, how cultural Marxism murdered capitalist hope. Logic is the invincible bulwark against the tyranny of sentiment, and yet here we stand, watching the bastions of Western enterprise crumble not from external siege, but from the rot of feminine converged sentimentality masquerading as corporate governance. I watched the institutional suicide of Google with the grim fascination of a pathologist examining a particularly aggressive cancer. In August 2017, James Damore distributed a memorandum that dared to apply the scientific method to Google's diversity orthodoxy, citing peer-reviewed psychological research on personality differences between the sexes. His reward? Immediate termination. The company that once adopted "don't be evil" as its moral compass had evolved into something far more sinister, a gynocentric inquisition where feeling trumps fact and ideological purity supersedes engineering competence. The irony drips like venom. An organization built entirely on the masculine virtue of ruthless logic, now policing wrongthink with the hysterical enthusiasm of a witchfinder general. Damore's heresy was not inaccuracy, it was audacity. He violated the prime directive of the feminized corporation. Never question the consensus, never speak the unspeakable, never notice that the empress wears no clothes. Consider the syllogism that damns them. If competitive excellence requires the unconstrained pursuit of truth, premise 1, and feminist ideology demands the suppression of inconvenient truths that threaten egalitarian delusions, premise 2, then feminist converged capitalism is a performative contradiction, a parasite consuming its host while claiming to save it. Google's search algorithm, once the crystallized intelligence of meritocratic engineering, now serves as a ministry of truth for gynocratic narrative enforcement. Type "men are," the autocomplete suggests men are trash. Type "women are," the system chokes, stammers, offers nothing. This is not bugs, it is features of an ideological operating system designed by and for the feminine imperative. Mark Fisher diagnosed the malaise correctly but prescribed the wrong etiology. His capitalist realism identified the suffocating sense that there is no alternative to the neoliberal order, yet Fisher, trained in the Marxist tradition, could not perceive the gynocentric parasite draining the host's vitality. The stagnation he lamented was not capitalism's inherent contradiction, but its feminization. Capitalism, properly understood through the lens of natural law, represents the masculine principle of telos-directed creation. The entrepreneur as architect, the market as crucible of competence, the price signal as feedback mechanism for reality testing. What Fisher witnessed was capitalism in drag, gynocracy wearing market cosmetics. The corporate bureaucracy that now chokes innovation is not the invisible hand of Adam Smith, but the grasping claw of HR commissariats, 91% female-dominated, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Enforcing consensus through the weaponization of hurt feelings, the linguistic corruption betrays the conceptual rot realism derives from the Latin realis, actual existing in fact. Yet what passes for economic analysis in our feminized discourse bears no relationship to material reality whatsoever. Consider the gamma bias that infects every discussion of workplace equity. The wage gap mythology persists despite being debunked as an aggregate preference artifact. Women working fewer hours, selecting lower risk occupations, prioritizing flexibility over compensation, while the genuine carnage of male workplace fatalities attracts precisely zero cultural attention. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that men account for 91.1% of occupational deaths year after year. Where is the outcry? Where are the diversity initiatives demanding more women in logging, fishing, roofing, and steelwork? The silence is deafening because it is strategic. The feminine imperative does not seek equality of sacrifice, only equality of spoils. The syllogism exposes the fraud. If economic justice requires attention to disparate outcomes, premise 1, and male workplace mortality exceeds female mortality by an order of magnitude, premise 2, then any equity framework ignoring body counts while fetishizing paychecks is not justice but resource extraction. The feminist critique of capitalism serves one function: transferring wealth from male producers to female consumers while insulating the latter from accountability. This is not Marxism, that defunct ideology at least pretended to care about workers as a class. This is parasitism with a philosophy degree. Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, flourishing through virtuous action oriented toward objective telos, provides the philosophical framework for understanding our civilizational despair. The medieval guild system transmitted knowledge through graduated responsibility: apprentice, journeyman, master. Each rung required demonstrated competence, not demonstrated grievance. A mason whose arches collapsed did not blame structural racism or patriarchal physics. He learned to build better arches. The mastery ladder enforced a brutal but beautiful meritocracy. Reality itself served as examiner, and there was no appealing the grade. Today's HR department, staffed by psychology graduates whose only skill is administering personality tests, cannot distinguish competence from confidence. They filter for agreeableness, the trait most predictive of female conformity and least predictive of innovative excellence. The civilization that produced the Gothic cathedral now produces the diversity seminar. Behold the devolution, subsidiarity's core idea, that choices should occur at the closest capable layer, provides our way out of this graveyard of organizations. Corporations with feminine traits consolidate authority and compliance units because distributed skills challenge enforced uniformity. Expert artisans require no panels to confirm their work meets criteria. The criteria are inherent in the job. Bridges either hold or collapse. Software either runs or fails. Patients either survive or perish. Facts defy manipulation. Yet the HR matriarch, creating nothing, assessing nothing, accomplishing nothing, demands growing red tape to validate her pay. She acts like a tapeworm in industry's gut, not a parasite that destroys its host immediately, but one that keeps it constantly feeble, weak, only able to stagger toward the next diversity filing. I have watched brilliant men, engineers, programmers, architects of the digital age, reduced to stammering apology before tribunals of their inferiors. The inquisitors hold no technical knowledge, possess no productive capacity, create nothing of value. Their power derives solely from their position as enforcers of feminine consensus. The Soviet Union fell because central planning could not calculate prices. Our corporate gynocracy falls because central feeling cannot calculate truth. The collapse will not be televised. It will be memed into existence by men who remember that logos precedes pathos, that the transcendental good requires the transcendental true, and that a civilization which prioritizes emotional comfort over physical reality deserves neither and will retain neither. The remedy walks among us already: the independent craftsman, the distributed network, the underground economy of competence. Build outside their structures, speak truth to their power, refuse the vocabulary of their corruption. The masculine spirit creates, the feminine consensus consumes. Every institution captured by the latter will fall, and from its ashes, the former will build again. This is not pessimism, it is prophecy, grounded in the eternal laws they pretend do not exist and cannot repeal. The corporate conquest I have anatomized represents merely the material dimension of a broader assault. The gynocratic consensus, having secured the economic heights, now advances upon the interior fortress of masculine psychology itself. Their method possesses diabolical elegance. Pathologize the very emotional architecture that enabled men to build civilizations, then prescribe pharmaceuticals to suppress the symptoms of engineered despair. The Stoic tradition, 23 centuries of wisdom teaching men to feel deeply while acting decisively, now finds itself recast by the therapeutic state as emotional suppression. A framing so dishonest, it would make the sophists blush. Consider how the parasite has learned to call the host diseased, and the man whose philosophy they have targeted for erasure. The pathologization of virtue, male emotion as thought crime. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, whose Meditations remains the definitive text on masculine emotional sovereignty, wrote these words from a war tent on the Danube frontier. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The greatest ruler of antiquity understood what modern psychology has deliberately obfuscated, that a man's capacity to feel deeply while acting decisively constitutes the bedrock of civilization itself. Yet examine the American Psychological Association's 2018 guidelines for psychological practice with boys and men, which explicitly declares traditional masculinity psychologically harmful, marking the first time in that organization's 127-year history. It has pathologized the very biological expression that built every hospital, university, and legal framework permitting its own existence. The parasite has declared the host diseased. Consider the foundational syllogism that gynocentric psychology cannot refute without self-destruction. If emotions evolved as adaptive signaling mechanisms addressing sex-specific evolutionary challenges, premise 1, and male neurochemistry produces emotional patterns calibrated to masculine reproductive strategies, including status seeking, territorial defense, and resource provision, premise 2. Then pathologizing male emotional expression constitutes species-level malpractice, a denial of biological reality serving only gynocentric control. The transgender ideologue insists biology is social construction. The feminist therapist insists male biology is pathology. Both assertions collapse under identical scrutiny. The etymology reveals the inversion. The Greek pathos signifies suffering experience. Logos denotes reasoned study. Psychology originally meant the systematic examination of human suffering to alleviate it. Modern therapeutic culture has transmuted this noble pursuit into something darker, transforming rational male response to genuine suffering into diagnosis itself. When a man expresses anger at divorce court proceedings, granting his ex-wife custody of children, he funds through garnished wages, the therapist reaches for the diagnostic and statistical manual rather than the Constitution. The suffering inflicted by feminine social structures becomes evidence of the sufferer's defect. The ADHD industry demonstrates this chemical castration with horrifying precision. Boys receive diagnoses at rates 3 to 4 times higher than girls, not because males possess defective neurology, but because female-dominated educational environments pathologize masculine energy as disruption. Longitudinal research from the University of Sydney following 3,491 children found those diagnosed with ADHD showed worse educational and employment outcomes than undiagnosed peers with identical symptom profiles. The treatment produces the pathology it claims to address, a self-fulfilling prophecy serving teacher convenience at the cost of masculine vitality. Testosterone correlates directly with status-seeking behavior and territorial defense across every mammalian species ever studied. Declaring these drives pathological is equivalent to diagnosing estrogen toxic because it produces emotional variability. A civilization that identifies its founding biology as poisonous has entered what historians will recognize as the terminal phase, what Roger Devlin termed the sexual suicide of the West. The Roman satirist Juvenal identified this pattern 2 millennia ago. When women govern sexual norms, men withdraw from public life entirely. We call it going galt or mgtau. Juvenal called it the natural response to gynocentric tyranny. Thomas Aquinas, the angelic doctor whose synthesis of Aristotelian reason and Christian revelation represents the pinnacle of Western philosophical achievement, classified wrath among the passiones irascibiles, the irascible passions serving justice when properly ordered. The saint understood what feminist converged therapy cannot distinguish. Righteous anger at boundary violation differs categorically from aggression, but anger threatens consensus control, so all male feeling becomes suspect. The angry white male media framing pathologizes legitimate grievance at systemic dispossession, while publications celebrate angry black women as valid response to oppression. The double standard reveals the machinery. Pathologization operates selectively to silence threats to gynocentric order. I witnessed this diagnostic weaponization directly when my closest friend, a decorated combat veteran who had endured 12 months of Taliban ambushes without psychological collapse, received a diagnosis of adjustment Disorder with disturbed mood after confronting his wife about her infidelity during deployment. The marriage counselor, a woman whose professional credentials consisted entirely of feminist theory coursework, spent 45 minutes explaining how his inability to process emotions constructively had created the conditions for his wife's affair. The divorce proceedings that followed awarded his former partner primary custody, the house he had purchased, and 43% of his military pension. The pathology lay not in his response, but in the system that framed his rightful anger as mental illness, recover the virtue tradition that therapeutic culture has suppressed. Anger serves as diagnostic data signaling boundary violation. Ignore it and invite predation. Grief constitutes honor payment to lost value. Suppress it and become hollow. Frustration indicates competence opportunity mismatch. Address it through strategic action or accept mediocrity. The rational man feels completely, processes through dialectic reasoning, and acts decisively. The pathology resides in the diagnosis, not the condition. Every great civilization understood this. Only ours has forgotten. I learned this lesson across a dinner table in Brussels, sitting opposite a woman whose eyelashes fluttered with practiced innocence, while her mind constructed a prosecutorial framework worthy of the Spanish Inquisition. The pathology of feminine testing operates so far beneath conscious awareness that most women genuinely believe their interrogations constitute getting to know someone, a phrase that deserves linguistic dissection. The Old English snawan, to recognize, to distinguish, implies discernment through observation, not extraction through interrogation. Yet here she sat, weaponizing curiosity as a crowbar to pry open my psychological interior, demanding I testify against myself before the tribunal of her feelings. The pattern repeats with mechanical precision across continents and cultures. Same play, different actors, because the script emerges from evolutionary machinery older than language itself. The interrogation chamber, testing, trust, and the feminine frame. Do you get bored easily? She asked this with the innocent tilt of the head, a conspiratorial smirk playing at the corner of her mouth, as if she were genuinely curious about my temperament. She wasn't. No woman in the history of mating has posed this question to discover whether her man enjoys variety in his intellectual pursuits. She was establishing jurisdiction. She was setting up the interrogation room. The correct answer to this question does not exist because the question itself is a trap. The feminine frame demands he audition. The masculine frame declines the tryout altogether. Consider the architecture of this seemingly innocent query. Do you get bored easily? Unpacks into a prosecutorial battery. Are you constant? Are you loyal? Will you grow restless and seek novelty elsewhere? Am I sufficient to hold your attention indefinitely? She has transformed herself into the examiner and you into the specimen. The moment you answer earnestly, you have consented to the frame. You have agreed that your interior life is subject to her audit. The man who explains that he maintains varied interests to stave off ennui has confessed to flight risk. The man who claims he never bores has confessed to either dishonesty or stagnation. There is no winning move within her frame, only the refusal to play. Let us construct the syllogism that dismantles this entire enterprise. Premise 1. Testing reveals character. Premise 2. Testing itself demonstrates bad faith and manipulation. Conclusion. The tester proves herself untrustworthy through the very act of testing. Trust cannot be demanded through suspicion without self-contradiction. A woman who requires constant verification of your fidelity has announced through her own behavior that she considers trust impossible, and if trust is impossible, what precisely is being tested? She manufactures the suspicion she then claims to investigate. The Germanic legal tradition, our civilization, built upon presumed good faith. The accused was innocent until proven guilty. The inquisitorial system, that bastard child of continental absolutism, presumed guilt and demanded the accused prove his innocence. Feminine testing culture imports inquisitorial logic into intimate relationships. She is prosecutor, judge, and jury. You are the perpetual defendant. The evolutionary psychologists have documented this mechanism extensively, though they typically lack the courage to draw the obvious conclusions. Female mate screening behavior evolved to verify male fitness through stress induction. The ancestral woman who tested her mate's composure under pressure, secured a protector who would not crumble when the neighboring tribe raided the settlement. Fine. But what was adaptive in the Pleistocene becomes relationship poison when unconsciously executed in modern pair bonds. The woman who shit deaths her husband because her great-grandmother's survival depended on such screening is operating machinery she does not understand and cannot disable. She is a passenger in a vehicle she believes she is driving. Here's the evolutionary dead end these instincts produce. Constant testing signals relationship insecurity. Mate guarding intensity correlates directly with infidelity rates. The woman who tests most rigorously triggers the very abandonment she fears through exhaustive erosion of masculine patience. Her testing is a self-fulfilling prophecy masquerading as due diligence. She creates the conditions for betrayal through her suspicion of it. Each test is another brick in the wall she builds between herself and the man whose devotion she claims to seek. I witnessed this asymmetry destroy a friend's marriage with surgical precision. He had disclosed a past infidelity during their courtship, a mistake made a decade prior in a different relationship. Under circumstances he explained fully because he believed honesty constituted the foundation of trust. She reminded him of this confession in every subsequent argument for 12 years. His transparency became the weapon she wielded whenever she required leverage. Meanwhile, this same paragon of feminine honesty had concealed her body count through technical virginity semantic games that would have made Bill Clinton blush. Her honesty demanded his absolute transparency while protecting her reputation through linguistic sleight of hand. When he finally objected to this double standard, she accused him of insecurity, pathologizing his entirely reasonable demand for reciprocal honesty. Have you ever lied? She deploys this question like a prosecutor laying a perjury trap. Everyone has lied. Universal human behavior transformed into confession fetish if he admits he has confessed to dishonest character. If he denies he is lying now, caught in the very act. This is the Kafka trap in its purest form, designed to extract emotional submission regardless of answer, not truth. The question is not a question. It is a demand for surrender. The gamma bias in relationship discourse renders this asymmetry invisible to mainstream analysis. His insecurity is pathologized. Her intuition is validated despite identical evidentiary basis. Her feeling constitutes evidence. His feeling constitutes defect. The frame itself rigs the game before play begins. The cultural Marxists who infiltrated our institutions understood that controlling language controls thought. By defining masculine skepticism as insecurity and feminine suspicion as intuition, they ensured that every disagreement would be settled in her favor before the evidence could be weighed. The masculine response must refuse the frame entirely. Return shit tests untranslated. Do I get bored? Merits the reply. Do you ask boring questions? Refuse the lie interrogation with, I am not under oath, and you are not my judge. Establish that trust flows both directions or neither. The virtuous man offers covenant, not confession. He extends the hand of good faith once. If she slaps it away with suspicion, he withdraws permanently. There's no second audition. Our ancestors understood honor as the currency of male cooperation. A man's word was his bond. The presumption of good faith made civilization possible. You cannot build a cathedral with men who require constant verification of each other's intentions. You cannot defend a border with soldiers who must submit to interrogation before each battle. The feminine testing impulse, unchecked, dissolves the social glue that holds institutions together. It transforms every partnership into an interrogation chamber. It exhausts the masculine spirit until nothing remains but resentment and the cold determination to escape. Her frame games operate within a sexual marketplace. Feminism has corrupted at the atomic level. When she demands your confession while guarding her body count, she protects more than reputation. She conceals evidence of biochemical wreckage no empowerment slogan can repair. The Gynocracy's crowning achievement, convincing women the carousel charges no fare, that flesh accumulates experience without cost. Biology keeps ledgers. The whore of Babylon reborn, sex positivity as civilizational poison. A woman's first love is her last. A man's last love is his first. The old proverb captures a biochemical asymmetry the Gynocracy spends billions to suppress. The General Social Survey tracks subjective well-being across decades. Women who report very happy marriages dropped from 67% in 1972 to 52% by 2018, while their partner counts inversely correlate with marital satisfaction at a coefficient of minus 0.42. For men, the correlation sits near zero. Promiscuity serves the masculine reproductive strategy, access without investment, precisely as evolutionary psychology predicts. Feminism became patriarchy's most effective weapon, convincing women that acting like low-investment males would liberate rather than destroy them. Watch the theory devour itself through pure syllogistic force. Premise 1. Sex-positive feminism exists to serve women's interests. Premise 2. Sex-positive culture produces epidemic female misery. Antidepressant use among women aged 18-44 increased 84% between 1999 and 2014, with 23.5% now pharmaceutically managed for depression or anxiety. Conclusion: sex-positive feminism contradicts its own telos, and the theory refutes itself through lived outcomes. You cannot claim liberation while manufacturing suffering at industrial scale. The feminist promises empowerment, but delivers Prozac. The biochemical betrayal runs deeper than ideology. Oxytocin, the bonding neurochemical released during intimate contact, operates on a feedback mechanism degrading with each novel partner. Studies from the University of Chicago demonstrate that women with 5 or more lifetime sexual partners show significantly reduced oxytocin response during subsequent pair bonding attempts compared to women with one partner. The liberated woman literally loses the biochemical machinery for attachment. Then the Gynocracy tells her that her resultant emptiness stems from slut-shaming rather than broken bonding equipment. The lie compounds the cellular damage. She cannot chemically love what she has mechanistically consumed. Consider the etymology they dare not speak. Pornography derives from the Greek porn harlot, specifically a slave prostitute sold into sexual service, combined with graphane to write or document. Sex-positive feminism's empowerment narrative constitutes literal harlot writing, chronicling and celebrating the commodification of the sacred sexual act for material exchange while masquerading as liberation. OnlyFans generates $2.5 billion annually from women documenting their own commodification. The platform takes 20%, the digital pimp extracting its tribute from every empowered creator. This represents the corporate colonization of sexuality. The liberated woman is simply the most efficiently monetized woman. Her intimacy gamified into subscription revenue. Her body converted into attention extraction machinery, serving algorithms she cannot comprehend. Natural law binds action to consequence, act to meaning. Traditional sexual ethics united sex with responsibility, marriage, potential parenthood, family formation. Sex positivity severs the act from its natural end, producing the abortion industrial complex as necessary backup for liberated choices. Since Roe v. Wade in 1973, over 63 million unborn humans paid the price for feminine sexual autonomy, roughly the combined populations of California and Texas, extinguished to preserve the fiction that consequence-free copulation exists. The Gynocracy calls this healthcare. Natural law calls it sacrifice to Moloch. Observe the polyamory trajectory, the final red pill for anyone still clutching egalitarian fantasies. Longitudinal data from the National Opinion Research Center reveals that 92% of open relationships either dissolve or convert to monogamy within 5 years, and where they persist. The primary pattern is overwhelmingly the woman taking additional partners while the man serves as domestic and financial infrastructure. Female hypergamy, documented across cultures and centuries, prevents genuine egalitarian arrangements. Evolutionary reality enforces hierarchy despite ideological proclamation. The open relationship is simply serial monogamy with a transition period where the beta male funds the alpha's access. Sexual freedom produces hierarchies more brutal than anything tradition imposed. Plato's Symposium understood eros as ladder, the sexual drive pointing upward toward transcendent beauty, truth, and ultimately the divine itself. The Western tradition from Augustine to Dante grasped that properly ordered sexuality serves as pathway to meaning, binding families, creating civilizations, lifting the animal impulse toward heavenly ends. Replacing sacred union with friction-based entertainment produces ontological poverty, bodies rubbing against void, seeking meaning mechanistically, finding only dopamine exhaustion and spiritual vacancy. The virtuous man refuses participation in the meat market. He offers covenantal commitment as alternative to transactional disposal. He recognizes that every sexual act participates in either creation or destruction, bonding or fragmentation, life or death. Choose accordingly. You have walked with me through the charnel house of modern ideology, stepping over the corpses of capitalist realism, the pathologization of virtue, the inquisitorial frame, and the whore of Babylon. And you have emerged not broken, but cleansed of the spell. You now perceive the wires suspending the puppets, the stage machinery of the Gynocracy creaking under the weight of its own deceit. The enlightenment you now possess is not a heavy burden, but a sharpened blade. Every logical fallacy you have learned to dismantle, every etymological root you have unearthed, from realis to porn, serves as a link in the chainmail armor of your intellect. Impenetrable to the limp projectiles of cultural Marxism, you possess the dialectic, you wield the syllogism, you have recovered the trivium as a weapon of spiritual warfare. You can no longer be gaslit by the wage gap myth when you know the 93% workplace death statistic, nor can you be shamed by the toxic masculinity label when you understand it is merely the parasite complaining about the host's immune system. Consider the stark realities of the current legal and cultural climate. Fathers frequently face presumption of guilt in family courts, losing access to their children and financial stability under the guise of best interests, which often functions primarily to transfer resources. In many Western nations, citizens face police action for expressing biological facts, categorized as non-crime hate incidents, while the state often fails to address actual criminal behavior effectively. Furthermore, the medical industry frequently prescribes pharmaceuticals to young boys, framing normal masculine energy as a pathology requiring medication. These systemic patterns demonstrate how operational frameworks can demand compliance while penalizing dissent. Do not mistake this awareness for cynicism or despair. That is the final trap they set for you. The end of capitalist realism Mark Fisher warned of is only terminal if you accept the premise that there is no alternative. But there is an alternative. It is you, it is the recovered logos within your mind. It is the refusal to bow to the false idols of diversity, inclusion, and equity, the three-headed dog guarding the gates of mediocrity. Your weapon is the truth, and the truth is the ultimate antidote to the toxin of the modern age. By reading this, by understanding the evolutionary biology of hyperemy and the historical tragedy of unchecked femininity, you have already won the most critical battle, the battle for your own mind. You have reclaimed your sovereignty from a culture that wants nothing more than to harvest your labor and your sperm while despising your spirit. You have broken the conditioning, so now I charge you, go forth. Take this red pill theoretical ammunition and spread it like wildfire. Do not whisper the truth in the shadows, shout it from the rooftops. When you hear a coworker parrot feminist talking points at the office, dismantle his argument with Socratic precision and watch him crumble. When you see a brother drowning in the despair of a divorce rape, throw him the life raft of this knowledge. Show him the statistical reality and save his life from the abyss. When you encounter the sex-positive propaganda poisoning young women, counter it with the biological reality of oxytocin and pair bonding. Be the spark that ignites the renaissance of Western civilization. The Gynocracy relies on your silence and your ignorance. Deny them both. You are the enlightened man. You are the cure. The West does not need to be saved from outside forces. It needs to be saved from the lies within, and you, my brother, are now the surgeon holding the scalpel. Carpe veritatem. And now the sponsored book introduction, Exposing the Gynocracy, the Diary of an Enlightened Man. I spent decades swallowing the poison. Like many men, I nodded along as society labeled my natural instincts toxic, while demanding I provide and protect. I watched friends get cleaned out in divorce courts, saw sons alienated from fathers, and felt my own worth shrink under a gynocratic boot. The lie of gender equality cost me relationships, opportunities, and peace. That ends now. This book is my declaration of war against the female supremacist systems enslaving us. It's born from blood, research, and the cold hard truths evolutionary science confirms. Men built civilization, and only we can save it from Marxist feminist decay. You're here because you're sick of the double binds. Demonized for ambition, but called weak if you lack it. Told to open up, then discarded when you show vulnerability. Trapped in a rigged game where you lose jobs to diversity quotas, pay alimony for privilege, and watch masculinity be pathologized. This isn't equality, it's gynocracy. My work smashes these illusions with unassailable biology and psychology. You'll learn why fatherhood is your non-negotiable right, how to dominate power dynamics in dating and careers, and why toxic masculinity is a feminist trap designed to neuter you. Chapters like Female Supremacy, Systems Unveiled, and Legal System Warfare expose the machinery of your oppression. Primal Confidence Forging, and Alpha Renaissance hand you the tools to rise. This book is for rational men, the red-pilled warriors tired of being second-class citizens. If you're ready to reclaim your biological destiny, laugh at woke absurdities, and arm yourself against cultural sabotage, you belong here. But if you're a feminist, leftist, or anyone who thinks men are the problem, close this book immediately. Go binge Netflix or attend a sensitivity training. What follows will offend your dogma, and I won't waste a syllable apologizing for the real men left. What I offer isn't theory, it's a battle plan. You'll gut feminist double binds, dismantle Marxist lies poisoning education, and master sexual marketplace economics. Ever wonder why women desire dominance but vilify it? See biological realities of sexual dynamics. Feel financially enslaved. Financial enslavement systems breaks your chains. This is life-altering truth, actionable, evidence-backed, and unapologetically patriarchal. Stop accepting victimhood. Lead. Exposing the Gynocracy, the diary of an unenlightened man, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now. Links in description.